I went to my favorite local Goodwill this morning and saw this sitting on the electronics section. It's big, heavy, looks old, and it says Sony on it. So I'd already decided to buy it, no matter what's inside, for the price of $9.50. So I opened it up and noticed that it's a very cool old open reel tape recorder. And it's got these little slide out or fold out covers that expose the stereo speakers. I assume that's what that is. Look at those cool old gauges there. Ooh. And it looks like you can do either 2-track or 4-track. That's kind of cool. And there's an owner's manual back there also, and a take-up reel. So this is the first time I really opened this up at home to check it out, but I'll start cleaning it up and maybe read up on the owner's manual, see what the date is on this thing, and start taking a look at it. But should be a good project for only $10. There's a few things I checked. This has a little zip-up pocket here, which was kind of hard to unzip, but I got it. And it turns out that that's where the power cord was stored. I'm glad I found it because it has this unusual end to plug. It's got something oily on it, like maybe the rubber is outgassing some oil, so I'll clean that up. Looked through the manual, didn't see any date codes, but I did notice on the schematic, I don't know if you can see it, but looks like it's full of vacuum tubes. So this is a pre-transistor unit, and I just looked on the what is it, the Radio Museum website, and it had a date of 1962. So I'll go with that for now. So time to clean it up a little bit. Let's see what it looks like inside. Alright, I pulled the unit out of the box right there, and a few worrying things occurred when I was doing that. Number one, all the screws were kind of loose. Never a good sign when screws are loose. It's a sign that maybe somebody's been in here. Then also, when I pulled the unit out, it didn't seem like the speaker wires or connectors were connected. So another bad sign. But general inspection, it looks pretty good. I don't see massive pieces of it. I kind of expected to see all the tubes pulled out of it, but they're all there with the exception of one. Supposed to be one right there. There's the holder. The little thing right there is the holder for the tube, and it is gone. I'm not sure what type of tube that is. And this thing right here is loose, and there's some wires either cut or broken off of it. Now that looks like some type of a coil or a choke, and it mounts right here in these little plastic holders. And all the wires that go to it are still there, and not all the wires are disconnected like somebody tried to take it out. So I'm not sure why the wires, if they just broke off or if somebody cut them off, but anyway, so everything seems to be there so that I can reinstall that, and then figure out what kind of tube that is, and see if I need to put it in right away. Could be an output tube. Might be able to fire this up without that. But everything else looks in pretty decent shape. So I do have a couple tube testers here, kind of cheapos, but maybe I'll go ahead and try to pull the tubes out and see what kind of shape they're in. And then if I can, I'll power this thing up on the dim bulb tester just so I get tape movement. I just tested all the tubes on my little Payco tube tester, and they all tested good. This has actually a set of 3 tubes in the audio chain for each side. It's got a preamp tube and a driver and an output tube, and one for each side, right and left, and those all tested good. They all seem to be the original tubes, which kind of leads me to believe this doesn't have a lot of hours on it because they're all in pretty decent shape. Right over here, that's the rectifier tube, and then there's a missing tube and this coil that's kind of just loose. I was not sure why that was until I started looking at the schematic over here, and let's see, that's it. That's the circuit right there. There's the missing tube, and there's the coil that has some lines cut on it, and that is a we call it a bias oscillator. Now I was wondering why that was cut, and then I found this piece of paper inside the manual, and this is a little hand-drawn picture of that transformer, that T3, that shows all of these lines being cut, brown, the red, and the red. So and then it's got some numbers here of a service center and information and stuff like that. So I'm assuming this seems to have been done by the previous owner for some reason. Maybe you know, the bias changed with later tapes or something. So that seems to be deliberately done rather than an accident or somebody just cutting those wires. So I'm going to leave it as is. Maybe I'll do some more research and try to figure out why you'd want to do that. Just disable the bias, tape bias circuit. But everything else on this seems to be good. I've got you know, the motor lubricated and all the controls cleaned up with deoxit. So I think I'm going to turn this thing over and plug it in and see if I can get the reels to move, and maybe see if the amplifying circuit is working. I'll have to pick up some tape. I don't have any tape here at my shop in Arizona, so but I do have a little local vintage record store that sometimes has open reel tapes that he sells cheap, so I may try to pick up one of those. So let's try that. Okay, here we go. Turn it on. Seems to have come on. Got it plugged into the dim bulb tester right now, and it's glowing dimly. Drawing about 50 watts, half an amp. So let's see what the voltage is. Well, I can't tell on the other side. This is going into the dim bulb. It's probably low. So that seems to be okay. So let's go ahead and do the bypass on the dim bulb. And let's see. When you put it in mono, it turns off the lamp behind one of the VU meters. That's kind of cool. Let's see. Record, turns the record lights on. Now I put this is the sensor for the tape. So I just put that there so it see that there's a tape, or think that there's a tape on it. So put it in forward direction. A little noisy. It is turning the capstan and the pinch roller. And let's see, drawing about 80 watts. That sounds okay. Let's try reverse. That's not so noisy, so maybe this is just needs some lubrication on that side. And in the reverse mode, that's what the tape counter is on. So yeah, that seems right. Seems like everything's working. So maybe it's time to do an audio test on this. Here's a typical problem you run into when you are working on electronics that are 60 years old. This is the power plug. This is where the plug plugs in, and it's just kind of shattered. When I first plugged the plug in, it just broke. So this, I believe, is ceramic. So I'm pretty sure I could probably super glue that back together. I'm going to give that a try. I did temporarily plug this thing in and got it kind of working. Everything seems to spin properly. Still haven't done an audio test on it yet, but I want to get this fixed before I put it back into the box and hook the speakers up and everything. So let's get this fixed. Now with the super glue cure overnight, I just use this Loctite super glue, and seems to be holding this together pretty well. Oops. So I think it's ready to go back in. Let's give that a try. Alright, got the AC plug back in, and that seems to be working just fine. Now the one additional mechanical issue that I seem to be having with this mechanism is there's a little idler wheel right here which goes up and down. And the reason that goes up and down is there's two surfaces here that this take-up reel has. This one here, the upper one, is a direct drive, and this one is a clutched drive. So during normal operation, when you're taking up tape, you should be driving this clutch wheel. And then when you want to fast forward, rather than driving through the clutch, you want to direct drive the reel, because there's no, tape's not just run through the machine real quickly. It's not attached to the pinch roller or anything, so you just want the tape to move quickly. So that's what this wheel does. It goes up and down depending on what position you have the mechanism in, either fast forward or normal play. Now this thing is kind of loosey-goosey on this little mechanism here, you see. And it's kind of goofy the way it works, but here's the when you go into a fast forward, you see it just rotates that thing and just gives this wheel just a little tilt, and that's enough to get it to ride up to the upper side. I'll show you when it starts. But what I was doing before is this lever here was bent too far, and it was making this thing run up all the time, even in normal play mode, which would have been bad. So I had to take this lever and just bend it so that it wasn't putting any pressure on pulling that thing up. So it was out of adjustment. So now, let's see if I can get this to work. There's normal fast forward. And see how it's still kind of coming up a little bit. I may need to just grease this a little bit more to get that to stay down. But now this is, I can stop this with my finger. Now when you rotate this lever and put it in fast forward, you can see how that rides up and drives the take-up reel directly. So that's how it's supposed to work. So with that solved, I may need to adjust that just a little bit more to prevent it from moving, but it seems to be working. Alright, got the unit back in the case, and I've actually got a music source hooked up to it with the monitor turned on, so that if I hit record.
But I was always alone. I don't know when, I don't know if I'm ever coming home.
So I'm getting so both VU meters work, both channels, audio amplifier works. Sounds pretty good. So all I need to do now is get some tape for it and see if I can make a recording and play it back. That's the next step. But
Coming home,
looking good. Okay, I pulled this back apart because I was a little concerned about the amount of noise that it was making. And I'll show you what I found out. So in reverse, it's nice and quiet. It's utilizing these two idler wheels. Here's the motor, and the drive motor, and it drives this wheel, and then the feed reel. So that's reverse, and that works fine. It's very quiet. But when you go forward, oops, put my little battery back in here. It's really noisy. So there's two idler wheels involved in this when you're moving forward. One right here that drives the capstan, and then this one right here drives the take-up reel. So you can see if I pull this back, pull both of these back, it's dead quiet. That's just the motor running. So there's the take-up reel, idler wheel, and there's the capstan idler wheel. Now the capstan itself is completely quiet. You can see when I, pull the idler wheel back off, you don't hear anything. So, and then when you go fast forward, this little mechanism just kind of rotates that a little bit and causes that wheel to ride up. And that drives the take-up reel directly. So I think the reason it's making so much noise is these idler wheels. This old rubber is just hard as a rock, and rubbing up against this motor, it's just making that noise. So that's why it doesn't make the noise in rewind, because neither one of those heavy or those hard rubber idler wheels are in motion. These two here, I think the rubber is fairly soft and pliable. So either I'm just going to have to live with that because it seems to work okay, or I can get these retired. Just pull them apart and get them send them in and have them redone. But for the amount of time that I think I'm going to use this, I don't know that it's worth it. Now another issue I'm having is that it does play back, but it does not record. Neither the erase head nor the record head is activated when you're in record mode. And I think it's because of that that system, the record bias system, which has been disconnected, where a tube was pulled out and the bias coil has been disconnected. So I think if I want to get this to record again, I'm going to have to replace that tube and reconnect that bias coil or transformer. So might do that, but I'll probably wait till I get back to Virginia, because that's where I have my spare tubes, and I think I probably have one of those tubes that's missing. So now there we go. That's what's making all the noise, is these old hard rubber idler wheels. So nothing I can really do about that other than just live with it for now. But it does play back just fine. It sounds good. I'll put it back together and demo this and do a little sound demo on a couple of tapes that I have here. So here's what this looks like moving tape. So forward. I don't have the speakers hooked up, but you see on the VU meters that it is reading the tape. that's forward. I know it's kind of noisy. Can't do anything about it. Okay, here's fast forward. So you can see that. Whoops. That idler wheel right there. If I reach it because my finger's in there, but that rides up and directly drives. Also on fast forward, it does not engage the pinch roller so that the tape can move by. Whoa, look at that. I guess my brakes aren't working right. It does have a brake. Let me see if that works. Okay, let's see. Okay, fast forward. It has a little instant stop. I guess you're supposed to, yeah, if you engage that, that prevents the feed reel from freewheeling and just spewing out tape. So on rewind, nice and quiet. I'll engage this instant stop too, just to prevent too much tape from unreeling. So that seems to be working. Now, one other issue I have here too, is this little felt thing right here on the erase head. There should be a little felt thing here on this, in the back of this record and read playback head that holds the tape against the head. I don't have that, so I'll have to figure out something to replace that with, but don't have anything right now. Again, this is it's playing something. I'll put it back together and hook the speakers up to it so we can hear it. But you can also see that, you know, that pinch or that capstan wheel is dead silent. You don't hear that at all. So that's well lubricated. So it's really just those two hard rubber idler wheels that are making all that racket. I put the works back in its case, and I think that's all I'm going to do for now on the tape recorder. Of course, it does play. It sounds pretty good. Everything seems to be working properly. It rewinds. It fast forwards. I need to manually hit the stop brake here to prevent it from reeling out tape. I guess that's why that's there. But everything's working right except for the record feature. It does not record because the previous owner, I think I've already covered this, but some notes here on how he disabled the bias circuit right here. So that transformer right there has been, wires have been cut coming from this side from the tube, and the tube's been removed. And of course that drives the erase heads and the record heads. So not sure why he did that. Maybe he was erasing over his pre-recorded tapes and wanted to make sure that wouldn't happen again. Anyway, I will probably restore that. I don't have that tube here, but I do believe I have that in Virginia. So when I take this back, I will try to restore that circuit. And but for now, it's just going to be a playback only machine. It does play at the two speeds, 3 1/4 and 7 1/2. I think is the imperial equivalents of that, 9 1/2 and 19. And it does have a 2-track feature, 2-track and 4-track. So I've got some 2-track tapes back east, so I want to see if this will play them and see if you can record on 2-track. So that's it for now. Cool old 1962 vintage Sony tape player. Working again. It does have that noise here. Turn the sound down. You can hear the noise. That's just you know, some old dried up idler wheels that I could replace. I think they're kind of pricey. I might look around and see if I can find a deal on getting those retired. But it doesn't seem to really need it. It seems to play okay, even with those old hard idler wheels. So that's it for now. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.